Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news as we talk more leaks from the Manchester United dressing room as senior players apparently grow weary and tired of Erik ten Hag's tactics. We'll talk about that. Also, Onana dropped by Cameroon, but he's not coming home because they've just won a game of football. So that's not going to happen. We're also going to be talking about the situation with Mason Greenwood tonight. Apparently, Barcelona would be interested in bringing him in, as well as the latest on Pelistri. What does Darren Fletcher actually do at the job? Aaron Wan-Bissaka to Al Nassr as well. We'll talk about that. So absolutely loads to get into on the show tonight. Thanks everybody who is who's tuning in with us as well. Absolutely love that. And big shout out to Cameroon for winning their game of football tonight. Absolutely fantastic. Incredible. Before we get into all of that, though, we have got a bit of trivia for you. More leaks are disappointing. I agree with people in the chat about that. But we are sponsored by Boohoo Man. It's the winter. It's a winter night. I've got my Boohoo Man hoodie on, and Boohoo Man are sponsoring the show this Tuesday night for you. You can get 10% off with the code Goldbridge, as always, through the link in the description or by scanning the QR code next to me. Fantastic clothing at a very reasonable price with an additional discount of 10% with that code Goldbridge. And they've also got discounts site-wide at the moment. You can add another 10% on. So if it's a 30% discount and you add this 10% on, you can get even more off. So check it out and kit yourself out with Boohoo Man. And as always, Boohoo Man are coming with a bit of trivia. Today is no different. So can you guess this Manchester United player? I was born on the 21st of October 1981. I joined United in 2006 in January, joining the club for 7 million. I made my debut for the club on the 25th of January, coming on as a substitute for Ruud van Nistelrooy in a League Cup win over Blackburn. That might throw you off a little bit. During my time at United, I won 5 Premier Leagues, 3 League Cups and 1 Champions League. I was voted Manchester United Player of the Year in 2008-2009 for my strong performances at centre-back, especially as there were a number of injuries. I left United in 2014 to join Inter Milan, where my debut came in a friendly against Manchester United. So do you know who we are talking about there? And he has got it absolutely spot on. Vidic. It was Nemanja Vidic. Big shout out to Boohoo Man. Don't forget you can get some lovely clobber like this by clicking the link in the description or going through the scanning the QR code, and make sure to use the code that I've given you, which is of course Goldbridge. So thank you very much for that. Right, let's dive straight into the show. There's lots to get into. Cameroon have just won, which means they won't be going out. They'll go through to the knockout stage of the AFCON, which means Onana will not be coming home. He was actually dropped for the game today. We can talk about that in a little bit. There's also a story in The Sun. I'll take it with a massive pinch of salt that Barcelona are interested in Mason Greenwood. We are the legends. We are the originals. Everybody else is just an echo. We are the original voice. You. I'm talking about you. And we're not going to run the show on Mason Greenwood to Barcelona because we're better than that. It's a rubbish story and it won't happen until the summer. The truth about Mason Greenwood is that there is interest in Spain because he's playing well in Spain. And if Mason Greenwood was a young, in his early 20s, Spanish player on the wing for Getafe, Barcelona would be looking at him because he's doing quite well there. So there is interest from Barcelona and other clubs, but whether that materialises, we'll have to wait and see. We can certainly discuss it, but look, it's not going to happen anytime soon is the honest answer. Right, let me just start off with this news story that was in The Athletic today. I think it's been a little bit misquoted. I saw the words not just weary, but tedious. And when you actually read the article, that is not the truth. This is basically about communication. Again, look, it's leaks from the dressing room, but it may not be as bad as people think. Certainly, I think that when it comes to Erik ten Hag, it's not helpful information. You know, we were talking this morning about potential replacements for Erik, and I think that, you know, it certainly could be the case. And I think Manchester United will look at other people. However, having said that, I feel that there is a scenario going on here that it's unhelpful. Basically, what the story is that senior players are becoming wary of Ten Hag's repeated instructions in training sessions. Apparently, these training sessions can run up to an hour, and players are becoming quite weary towards the end of training sessions of being told the same thing over and over again. I mean, look, it's not the sort of thing that you want coming out from the football club, if we're being completely honest. And again, it just adds that drip effect that is not a good thing for Erik Ten Hag to have at the moment. I remember back in September, we had a very similar headline coming out about players being weary of Ten Hag and tired of Ten Hag because he had favourites, etc. And I don't think that's particularly useful for a manager who is trying to basically keep his job at the moment. So I feel that this is not useful. But when you read the article, it really delves into something that, I'm not massively comfortable with. And it's to do with the communication style of Erik Ten Hag. The article itself talks about Ten Hag having issues at Ajax in how he communicates. It mentions not getting the Spurs job because they felt that maybe he didn't communicate that well. And it's now coming out with Manchester United that players are becoming weary of, Ten Hag's relentless approach to trying to get things right. It feels to me like I thought we were past all this. In the last few months of the season, the players just need to get on with it. Leave it to Ineos if they're going to replace the manager. Leave it to Sir Jim Radcliffe. The players don't need to be doing this. And I think it's very dangerous if players are thinking about getting rid of a manager, because we've got new owners now, and it will not reflect well on you as a player if you're going to try and do what you did to Jose, what you did to Ollie, what you did to Ranić. Get your head down and do your job. We don't need any more leaks about, we have to turn up to training when it's dark, or, he makes us train for an extra half an hour, or, he keeps telling us to do the same things. I mean, bottom line here, and there is a bottom line, he has asked these players to do this time and time and time again because they're not doing it that well. I mean, is that wrong? They're not doing it very well. So I feel that Ten Hag is probably absolutely correct to be focusing in on this. And look, at the end of the day, what does wary mean when you're talking about players are becoming wary and tired of Ten Hag's going over and over the same thing again and again? The last time I checked, we're not very good at scoring goals. The last time I checked, we're mid-table. The last time I checked, we're crap at at defending crosses. So a manager going over and over and over and over again, trying to implement ideas, I'd be doing exactly the same. It's got nothing to do with being Dutch. It's got nothing to do with a language barrier. It's got nothing to do with how you communicate. To be honest with you, if I was the coach of Manchester United, they'd be more than wary. They'd be running laps after we keep going over and over again. I personally would be telling Manchester United players that we're going to spend the next 2 hours working on set pieces because we're conceding too many goals from crosses. So, look, it just frustrates me. It frustrates me the amount of negativity that comes out about managers at Manchester United. And I think that I'm sure a lot of people would agree with me on that one, because it is relentless, it is constant, and it betrays almost a belief that these players are beyond reproach and that they're not the problem. And I think that Ten Hag may be many things, but they make the same mistakes every game, says John Stewart, one of our members in the YouTube chat. Of course they do. Of course they do. And I don't want to be reading about this. I don't want to be reading about this. I want to be reading about improvement. And the article says senior players have occasionally grow weary of Ten Hag's communication style, making them do the same thing again and again and again. If you were top of the league, 10 points clear, still in the Champions League, still in the Carabao Cup and still in the FA Cup, I'd read that and go, you know what, maybe he needs to take the foot off the pedal. But we're mid-table, we're playing crap, you need more training. The sympathy vote ain't going to happen. Just not going to happen, isn't it? Not going to happen at all. Give us your thoughts on that one anyway. And apparently it saps their concentration, having to do things over and over again. I'd be embarrassed to be associated with that article, by the way. I mean, only The Athletic will know what players and people are putting that out there. But to allow a story to go out where you're happy to say players are wary of Ten Hag's, insistence on doing things over and over again, and it can sap concentration. I mean, bloody hell, you're highly paid professionals. And yeah, it's do better. Do much better. Anyway, lots to get into on the show tonight. A few people still coming back on that Greenwood thing. Stephen says, lazy, egotistical players. Sacking the manager should be a last resort, says Charles. He's one of our members, and he says, should be a last resort for the manager. We don't want to be doing that. And not the default. We've got to stop player power. And I would agree with that one 100% on that. And the problem is Eric's ideas are not effective because his tactics and in-game management is not good enough and too pragmatic, says Easy. Well, I always disagree with that because I think that comes down to the players not being able to do it, if I'm being completely honest. But look, one of the players that maybe you can sort of go and say that maybe there is a bit of favouritism would be Onana. I'm just going to go through some of the points made by Chris Wheeler. He was on the United stand last Friday, but he's put a new article out today. Writes for the Daily Mail, Manchester United correspondent. Some interesting stuff coming out about Aaron Wan-Bissaka, about Casemiro. We've actually got lots of topical stuff to discuss tonight. Very interesting as well, Darren Fletcher's role. He talks about Darren Fletcher's role. We've not spoken about Darren Fletcher for a long time. He's got two very exciting sons in the Man United youth setup who you've definitely got to keep a watchful eye on the names Fletcher because we got them come across from Man City. But what's the job Darren Fletcher does? Because I didn't even know. Technical director, I didn't even know. I read what he does, and actually, I think this is a big decision for Ineos to make. Are they ruthless, or are they ruthless with a bit of jobs for the boys? Because I've heard people saying that, as good as Ineos might be for Manchester United, they will display a weakness if they keep certain people in the football club who probably don't deserve to be there. So we'll talk about that as well. Catherine said the England's women team is Dutch, manager is Dutch, and has a similar style, and the players do it for them. It's about mentality. I agree with you, Catherine. I do agree with you about that. Right. Let's talk about this. So, Biinda is set to make his debut on Sunday against Newport County in the FA Cup, regardless of whether Onana comes back. This article was written before Cameroon played Gambia. Cameroon have just beaten Gambia 3-2, so Cameroon are not out of the AFCON. If they'd lost or drawn today, I think they would have been out, and therefore there would have been a chance that Onana's on a plane tonight and he's back in Manchester on Wednesday. So we don't play till Sunday. Cameroon are out. Cameroon are still in it, and therefore Onana wouldn't be available for Sunday anyway. So Biinda will play on Sunday, but apparently, according to Chris Wheeler, he had been penciled in anyway. The interesting thing about this is, and I'm sure many of us are very excited to see Biinda, and not because we think he's better than Onana. No, it's not because I think he's better than Onana. It's because we don't know anything about him. He's a new signing who's not played 1 minute, and our current goalkeeper probably deserves to be dropped. So it's exciting to see Biinda play on Sunday. He may well sit there with a bench and a set of cards and have nothing to do. But it'd be nice to see him given some game time. The interesting thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Onana back in Manchester anyway, because he's done it before and he might be doing it again. It seems tensions are not great with Cameroon, and he was actually dropped today, is what we're hearing. He was dropped today. And apparently the goalkeeper that plays in a lower division in the French league, I think he plays in League 2 in the French league or something like that, I was reading. So I don't know why Onana got dropped, because I didn't watch the last game. I saw he should have saved the Mane shot, but I mean, maybe he's got an injury, I don't know. But he didn't play in goal today, Onana. So look, Biinda will play on Sunday, and Onana, things go from bad to worse. It's embarrassing for him. And look, I think it was Beth said it on Twitter. She's absolutely correct. Onana's paying the price of not putting his foot. He wants to. He's playing in out, shake it all about at the moment, isn't he? He's going to the AFCON. He's not. He's playing for Man United. He's not. He's tried to play both. And to be fair, Cameroon have got every right to say you're not committed. You weren't here until get here for the first game. So I think it's a French third division relegation team, says ABCD. So I think that when it comes to Onana, I'm sure he'll be back in game for the goal for the Wolves game next Thursday, I think. I don't know when Cameroon actually play, but he didn't play in goal for Cameroon today. So watch this space. It's definitely not going to... of course he's going to be... Look, Kelly says he'll be definitely frustrated. Of course he's going to be frustrated. You know, he's Manchester United's goalkeeper. He's come out, you know, he'd given up playing for Cameroon. He comes out of that retirement to play for Cameroon, and then he gets dropped in a key game in the AFCON. Of course he's going to be frustrated, and he's got every right to be frustrated. But we'll have to see what happens with that. It's a watch this space, isn't it? But Biinda will play in goal at the weekend. It looks absolutely nailed on now, and apparently it was going to happen anyway, which is interesting. Thanks to everyone who's watching on TikTok, by the way. We are live on TikTok. Big shout out to Manchester, Haviz, Luke Casey, Castle, Brooklyn, R6 Fandom. Yeah, we're live on TikTok at the moment as well. Of course, we're on YouTube, the legends of YouTube. And welcome to Ray Cowley, who says it saps concentration. That's why he keeps repeating himself, as he can't do it the first time. Do the task properly and relent and ease up, says Ray Cowley, who obviously isn't a big fan of Ten Hag. And Glenny Boy says, no wonder we haven't got any pattern of play. If they lose concentration every time, they have to repeat instructions. It smacks of a low IQ. And Jared says, as a plumber, I do almost exactly the same thing day after day and I don't complain. These lazy knobheads should wake up and realise they are the problem. Can't argue with that. Can't argue with that. Let me just send that message. I'm early tonight, by the way, because I am on That's Football for That's Football YouTube channel for Chelsea Middlesbrough. Come on, Kariki! Kariki! Come on, Kariki. Kariki. Let's do it, Kariki. Do you need me there at Stamford Bridge, Kariki? Why am I going to answer phone, Kariki? But it's Kariki 1-0 up, and hopefully Middlesbrough can get the job done. So I'm doing a watch-along for that tonight on That's Football. Anyway, what's this story about? Stevens, 100, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you for joining the Members Club on YouTube. You're an absolute legend. Get your badge in. Really appreciate that support. Next story from Chris Wheeler in the Daily Mail deals with Aaron Wan-Bissaka to Saudi. This story came out this morning. I didn't really think much of it, if I was being honest. I wasn't that impressed by it. I was like, whatever. But I think it was initially in the Telegraph, and it's now come out with Chris Wheeler as well and a couple of other people. So it seems like this is true. Now, what Chris Wheeler is saying is that in the summer, Man United, Al Nassr, which is where Ronaldo is, probably going to go for Casemiro. Casemiro's 32 next month. He's on 375k a week, apparently. Man United might look to move Casemiro on. But the Wan-Bissaka story is about this month. Al Nassr tried to sign Emerson Royale from Spurs for £20 million. I mean, I'd rather have a chicken Royale than Emerson Royale, so that's up to Spurs what they do there. But apparently Spurs won't do the deal, so they're now looking at Wan-Bissaka this month. Now, this creates a really interesting situation, and I'm going to do a poll here on YouTube for you. Would you let AWB go this month? So let me know what your thoughts are on that. Apparently, Al Nassr want him this month. Now, if they've had 20 million turned down for Emerson Royale, I don't want 20 million for Wan-Bissaka. Having said that, we've not renewed his contract. He's only got 18 months left on his contract. So people are saying, let's take 30 million. I mean, I said on Twitter today, 90 million or no deal. But really, what is his value? How much would you say Aaron Wan-Bissaka is worth in January with 18 months left on his contract? And would you do that deal? Mojo, you're a bloody legend, mate. He's just gifted 10 memberships. Absolute legend. Thank you very much. Make sure you subscribe, everybody who's watching, by the way, as well. Ray Cowley says, I meant the players can't do it. And KFJ990 is a new member as well. Thank you very much for joining. So I would say Aaron Wan-Bissaka is probably a £30 million player if you get it right. But 25 million might not be a bad deal. I agree with Owen on TikTok. I think 25 million is not a bad idea. And I also think that There is also 35 to 40, says Alan. Scarboy says win. ARJ says 20 to 30 million. I agree with ARJ, one of our members. I'd say if they give us 25 million, take it. Because he's got 18 months left on his contract, I'd say 25 million. The problem is, and the poll on YouTube is playing this out, they're 50-50. I agree. I'm 50-50 on this. I don't know whether we should do this deal or not, because if you let Wan-Bissaka go in January, you leave yourself with Delo and Shaw and Malacia, and that leaves us really short. Whatever you say about Wan-Bissaka, you can use him. We're using him at the moment with Luke Shaw been out, Delo's been at left back, so it's all right saying cash in, but you might get 20 million from in the summer, and 25 million now. Is it worth the 5 million to run the risk of being short? I mean, who would play at right back if Delo got injured? I don't know. Lindelof, you know, maybe the young lad, is it Kambuala? Maybe he could play there. I don't know, but it's I don't know. I'm sort of 50-50 on this. Part of me's like, let's get the money. And look, there's always a positive to doing a deal in January like that. If you sell Wan-Bissaka now, you ain't got to do it in the summer. Time efficiency, you bank the money in this calendar year as well. The big problem Nottingham Forest had with financial fair play was that they sold Brennan Johnson after the 30th of June, which put it into the next year. If they'd sold him before that, they would have been compliant with financial fair play, but they sold him after. So by selling Wan-Bissaka in January this year, the deal's done. You don't need to do it in the summer, and that money's in the bank. So I don't know whether United will do this, but I think they will think long and hard about whether they're going to do it, because I think that there is arguably a reason to do it. But you're 50-50 on the live chat with it, which is interesting, I guess. But look, we'll have to wait and see. But it's genuine. It is genuine. It's not. I don't think it's paper talk. I think it's genuine interest, and as we know with Saudi, I've been saying for a while now, some players that we lose might not be players that we want to lose, but as part of a revolution, maybe it is. Maybe it is the sort of thing to do. But yeah. Just talking about Saudi, by the way, you might be interested in, you might not. We'll probably talk about it a little bit on That's Football tonight. Osman already knows where he's going in the summer. I've been told weeks ago it's Saudi. And it's come out from somebody's agent as well. Apparently Osman's off to Saudi. I mean, think of that what you will. Am I the only one that really rates and likes Aaron Wan-Bissaka, says Sam? No, I don't think you are, mate. I mean, I like Wan-Bissaka, but I just don't think he's the sort of player that... you've got to do something at right back. You've got an attacking right back in Delo. You've got a defensive right back in Wan-Bissaka. One of them's got to go. I think one of them's got to go. I like them both, but one of them's got to go because we need to bring in a right back that can do both, and then the other one becomes the backup. That's my feeling on it. Yeah. We can afford to let him go. We're not playing as many games as we had last season, says Mojo, so the risk of injuries can be mitigated. That's a great point. We will be playing less games. Am I the only... welcome to the United Stand Members Club. United We Stand. Thank you very much for that. Armchair Sportsman says, I see this title every week on United Stand. Come on, Mark, you're better than this. How many times can a manager lose this dressing room? Mate, it's not me. It's not me. Players tired of Ten Hag. Players weary of Ten Hag. It's in the Athletic, pal. I can only read you the news, pal. I can only read you the news, which I'm going to carry on with. Latest with Pellistri, according to Chris Wheeler, is that there is a lot of clubs interested in Pellistri. We expected him to be out on loan by now, but Pellistri is still at the club, and there is uncertainty going into the last week of the transfer window, January transfer window, whether he will go or not. So keep your eye on Pellistri. He may go, he may well stay. Also, Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire are now back training with Manchester United. This is great news. This is positive news. Harry Maguire was doing well before his injury. That injury has been a long time out as well, hasn't it? About 6 weeks. So, you know, a bit longer than we thought, but good to have him back. I think that's all of our centre-backs basically fit now. I'm pretty sure. Is Lindelof injured? I don't know. I've not heard about Lindelof, but Varane, Martinez, Maguire, Johnny Evans, Luke Shaw back at left-back. This is good news. Whether they'll play in the FA Cup game, I don't know. Luke Shaw is obviously the more important player to get back because he's our best fullback, but it's still good to have Maguire back because, as we know, Varane is still problematic injury-wise. I do want to see that Martinez, Varane, Luke Shaw high line defence with Casemiro in front of it back, and I think that will help Manchester United a lot, but we'll see. Harry Maguire's back as well on TikTok. Who would have known? Lindelof is still out, says Terp, so that's good news. And then the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, because this was again from Chris Wheeler, very, very interesting, and then we'll get into some of your comments, of course. He spoke about Darren Fletcher, who I've seen people in the chat talk about Darren Fletcher quite a lot. We're used to seeing him on the training ground, although United don't release as many pictures as they used to. But Chris Wheeler was saying that Darren Fletcher will be 40 years of age on transfer deadline day, a week tomorrow. But he probably won't be out for a party or a meal on the night because he's the guy that gets called up by all the clubs, because he basically works close with John Murtough and is the go-between between Murtough and a lot of clubs as a technical director. So that is what Darren Fletcher does. I knew he was a technical director, but I'd never really thought about Fletcher because I don't really have a massive problem with him. But if Darren Fletcher, I'd never thought about it. What I'm trying to do is we want to be the best. Barada coming in is a really good recruitment. Dan Ashworth would be a really good recruitment. Paul Mitchell would be good. It's very clear that Ineos want to make big change. The big thing for me is not going to be the CEO or the director of football. It's what they're going to do with that squad. I've seen some of these players here for years. Some of them need kicking out. New players need to come in. We've got to change the mentality in that dressing room, get rid of the lazy egos and move forward. But also, John Murtough gets a lot of stick. And if Darren Fletcher's his technical director who works with him, well, this is really interesting because John Murtough and Darren Fletcher might both keep their jobs, in which case people would say, well, Ineos are coming in with all this change, but they're keeping people from the past. If Murtaugh's got to go, why does Fletcher stay? Does he stay because he played for the club and he's well liked and it's a job for the boys? Does he stay because it's an apprenticeship and they feel they can get him better? Or do they move him on because actually he's associated with Murtough? And it's going to be very interesting. I think they'll keep him. I think they'll keep him because he's got two sons in the youth setup who are very talented. And if they end up being worth 10 million each, you'd keep Darren Fletcher at the job and give him a job, wouldn't you? I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous, but you've got to keep him happy. I don't really care what we do with Darren Fletcher. I think he's dropped out of the spotlight a lot more than he was before, which I think is beneficial. But as a technical director, you've got to say it's not working. It's not working on recruitment. So Darren Fletcher'd be very inexperienced. I mean, Darren Fletcher came here to do his coaching badges and ended up Man United's technical director. I mean, that if that's not a job for the boys, then what is it? Ineos need to be excellent. You can have an apprentice. Of course you can. If you've got competence and if you've got Dan Ashworth and you've got Barada, then maybe there's a job for Darren Fletcher where he learns. He certainly hasn't had anyone to learn from. I think that would be my defence of Fletcher. I've got no problem with his keeping him at the club. He's well liked. He's got his kids there, as I said, who are good footballers. I think there is a place for Fletcher there. But it's surprising when you actually think about what they're saying about his role is there to be the sort of worker with John Murtough. He definitely needs some development in himself. I'd just bring in Ranyik back, says I'm just Lee, would you? Okay. And ruthless but a headache, less to sort in the summer, says Ray. Would we need a more defensive right back as a backup, not an attacking one? Also, fullback market isn't that big right now, so would rather keep both, says KFJ. I still think, and you can bookmark it, you can remember it, whatever. I think if Ten Hag stays this summer, we will see Frimpong at Manchester United. I think Frimpong has been a player that Ten Hag has wanted ever since he walked into Manchester United. And being as Frimpong hasn't left the club he's been at since Ten Hag wanted him, that move will happen. And I think we will see Frimpong at Manchester United in the summer if Ten Hag stays. And I think he's reasonably priced as well. He's not going to cost you loads of money. Obviously, Dumfries has been linked to us in the past. But look, whether Frimpong's good enough or not, what is the right back market at the moment? I don't know. Tattoo says, hi Mark, I absolutely love your content. It's my birthday tomorrow. Can you wish me an early happy birthday? Happy birthday to Tattoo King. Yeah, Ledge. I hope you're doing well. Thank you very much for that. And look, just circling back to a story that a lot of people have been talking about. We've got a situation for the... it's come out in the Sun, basically, that that Barcelona are interested in buying... what's his name? Mason Greenwood. Now, I don't know about that, to be honest. I think that the story is ridiculously speculative. But I spoke about this last night. If Manchester United are going to spend money in the summer, they need to generate money. If Wan-Bissaka goes to Saudi Arabia for 25 million, that's 25 million. If Mason Greenwood goes to Barcelona for 50 million, that's 50 million as a homegrown player. If Scott McTominay goes to West Ham for 30 million, that's another 30 million. You've raised over 100 million pounds off 3 players there. And that's before you decide what to do with Maguire, Varane and Casemiro. So, you know, we have to look at those sort of things. Of course we do. Do I think Barcelona are interested in Mason Greenwood? Well, I don't for 1 minute think the Sun have got the exclusive on Mason Greenwood to Barcelona. What we do know is that there are admirers of Mason Greenwood in Spain because he's playing in Spain. And there were admirers of Mason Greenwood 3 years ago before what happened. So I read something 2 weeks ago, and I'll tell you what it was. Man United won't bring Mason Greenwood back because Ineos won't want to go back on what the Glazers said, which is that he's going to go. Now, people would say, well, of course they want to go back on what the Glazers said, but there would still be a movement against Greenwood coming back, and that would be bad PR for Ineos. So they probably won't have him back. And it's easy to get rid of him and bring that profit straight into the club. So Greenwood probably gets sold in the summer. But the article also said if he signs for Getafe or he signs for Atletico Madrid, there may well be protests at those clubs about signing him. I don't agree with that. I don't think that will happen in Spain. I don't know, but I don't get the feeling that there's any issue with him playing for Getafe. And I don't think there'd be any issue with Barcelona fans if they signed him either. So, look, I think there will be interest. If we're going to sell him, the best thing that can happen is loads of clubs want him because you just bump that price up and up and up and everybody's happy then in that situation. What probably happens with Mason Greenwood, by the way, if he does leave Manchester United and he does go to Barcelona and he does do well, is he probably ends up coming back into the Premier League in 5 years' time for somebody else. So, you know, I guess we'll have to just watch that story, but it's certainly not a story that I think is one that we need to be concerned about at the moment. I think that Rid says he's not good enough for Barca. Getafe fans have been protesting, says Rudrish. Well, I don't know. I don't watch La Liga. I don't. I watch the Premier League. I don't have time for it. I'm not massively interested in it, to be honest with you. IG211 on TikTok says Greenwood's way better than Anthony. I am doing a watch along for Middlesbrough versus Chelsea tonight, James. I'm on That's Football in about, I meant to be there in 3 minutes, but what they don't know won't hurt them because I'm not finishing this yet. And then I'm going to go and get myself a drink. So I will be on there for kickoff, of course. Jonathan says it shows how far Barcelona have fallen if Greenwood is a target. Well, look, we're not going to go into that conversation tonight, but he's got every right to come back. Luke says Mark's triggered that we're bringing him back. Luke, grow up. You've got a members badge. You're doing the members club a disservice by talking out of your silly little arse. I am not triggered about Mason Greenwood coming back. I haven't even spoken about Mason Greenwood coming back, and he may well come back. But as of now, I think they'll get rid of him in the summer because I think it's bad PR for Ineos. But they might bring him back. I'm not in charge. I think that's a very big decision for Ineos to make in their first summer. But what I will say about Greenwood is they can't let it linger over the summer. They can't have him coming back to Carrington in his car at the start of July and go, we don't know what's going to happen. That's not fair on him. It's not fair on the fans. You know, they've got to make that decision quickly. If they're going to sell him, they've got to do it before pre-season. If they're going to keep him, they've got to make that announcement before pre-season. You can't have a player coming back and everyone going, is he staying or is he going like last year? That That I'm absolutely convinced with. You've got to look at it like that, certainly. Tina G doesn't want him back. Well, look, there'll be people who are very, very split on it, and I don't have an issue with that. I think it's absolutely fine to have a different opinion on it, because that's what life is all about, isn't it? No problems at all with that. Make sure you're giving us a follow, by the way, if you're watching on TikTok. Thank you very much for tuning in on there. Would Wan-Bissaka be pure profit, says Vishek? I'd say just about. He must be, it's not far away from the end of his contract. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. But look, the bottom line is, I'm not interested in footballers being tired of Ten Hag telling them what to do. You're paid a lot of money to do something most of us would do for free. Get your arse into gear. Show us what you're all about. You're mid-table. You're playing crap. You're conceding crap goals. Get on the pitch and deliver. You're nowhere near where you need to be. You should be turning up for training half an hour early and training half an hour afterwards. That's what Man United players should be all about. Moaning about tactics and this, that and the other. Get on with doing your job, because it's going to get a lot harder under Sir David Brailsford. Marginal gains are coming to Manchester United. Right, thanks everyone for tuning in. You're absolute legends. I'm going to be on That's Football in about 5 minutes' time for Chelsea against Middlesbrough. Come on, the Borough. Can Carrick get to Wembley? We'd all love to see it, wouldn't we? Thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you over there in a minute. The funny thing is, I'm still live on TikTok.